are sincerely interested in what's happening in their life. So I really appreciate it. It was great even today just connecting with some people. I have my friends that I've worked with sitting at my table. I have one of my colleagues from New Orleans who's in, and then I had friends that I've been with for years and our clients, and then I actually even had a friend surprise me and fly in, and I was so excited to see her too, and I think that was Brian's deal, but thank you guys, thank you. When Mary Bradford called me to tell me that I was going to be given the Richard A. Dick Dano Award, I was speechless. I was a little emotional, right, Mary? And I was just kind of overcome as the thought of what this award really means. And it covers graciousness, generosity, integrity, and respect. But what stood out the most about what the award means was really leadership through mentoring. And if you knew Dick Dano, then you knew that was really what he was all about. I think probably in the room today, there's probably only a handful of people that actually knew Mr. Dano. And I'm going to refer to him as Mr. Dano because I referred to him as Mr. Dano my whole life. And I am really proud to say, obviously, that I knew him. My dad was with Hilton Hotels for 42 years. And so we moved 7 times east and west coast. And when it was time for my dad to kind of finish out his career, we came back to Chicago, and he actually was in the national sales office. And I think there's only one person in this room, and is John Folks is in here somewhere. He was actually in the office with him as he kind of finished off his retirement. But Mr. Dano was also in that office with him. So as I grew up, we spent a lot of time visiting the office and having an opportunity to interact with him. And then later, as I started my career, which we talked about at the Palmer House, and Carrie, I didn't even know that you were at the Palmer House too, but many people started their career at the Palmer House. But at the Palmer House, I would also interact with him as well. When I also later became involved in PCMA and then also CSAE, we actually sat on a committee together. And I am such a pack rat, my husband will say this, and I save so many things, but I actually saved the Holiday Showcase 1991 brochure. Now, we graduated a lot because these are gingerbread men. But in here, and we also had Gene Siskel. So if anybody was around, if you remember, Gene Siskel was our headliner. But on the Holiday Showcase Committee, I'm trying to think in the room, well, of course, Mr. Dano was on it, but Cindy Wentz here today too, and she was also on the committee. We were laughing about it. Francine, myself, and Mark Tunney, and a couple other people. But I did save this. And I remember distinctly when I went to the first committee meeting, it was at the CSAE offices. I was late, which kind of sometimes I am. And I walked in the room and I, said hi, and then I said, hi, Mr. Dano. And everybody in the room turned and looked at me and said, Mr. Dano? And they're like, why are you, but I mean, I'm a product of my upbringing. And so I just, always referred to him as Mr. Dano. Well, when my dad decided that he was going to retire, the Hilton was having a national sales meeting actually out in Los Angeles. So they invited our family to come and surprise my dad. So they also asked if one of the kids could actually give a little speech. So being the oldest, my brother and sister said, why don't you do it, why don't you do it? And I said, okay. So I spent a lot of time thinking about, this tribute, this emotional tribute that I was going to give to my dad. And so I put everything together, and I got up at the podium. I was nervous. There was like a panel sitting here, and I started this serious you know, about my dad and our life growing up with Hilton and moving around and all these wonderful experiences. And then I started going more into my dad about, you know, his mentorship, etc. And then all of a sudden, I'm kind of interrupted, and I hear this psst, psst, and I'm kind of talking, and I look to my right, and sitting there next to the podium is Mr. Dano. And he looks up at me and he says, "Jesus, Peggy, it's not a eulogy." Right. And so, of course, everybody could hear it. And so that's kind of just the guy that he was, for sure. But, you know, kind of, I just wanted to say, really, I am so thankful for so many opportunities that I've had and so many things that have afforded me in the positions that I've had in my career thus far, which I do consider, which I am continuing, just so you know, because I will have 2 kids in college for like the next 10 years. But I hope to continue to be a good leader, a partner, and a friend, and for my customers and for my colleagues. And you know, when reflecting upon it, I feel so fortunate that I grew up in a time when there were Mr. Danos and there were Jim Murrays, because they were really exceptional people. And they were people that you wanted to respect, and they wanted you to earn their trust. And they developed strong relationships with their clients, which ultimately were their friends. And this was very, very essential. So I feel like I've had a perfect foundation when I started my career. And now I have a perfect opportunity to give back as a mentor myself. So it's never too late to start, and it doesn't mean it has to be at an organization, but it can be